All right, that's up, and you're up. Let's grab our chat. Copy link. There's a button just to activate all. I don't see it on here, so hold on. All right, I think we got everybody up. There we go. Everybody's up. Good morning. Continuing adventures of me trying to unbreak things, right? There's a couple things I wanted to edit real quick. Make my noise, oops, better. Sorry, Bosch. All right, you, and you, and you, and you, and you. Good morning. I realize it's late all the week, and I think what it is, I need to pivot the foot to go this way. And then this is way too long, so I think we're going to shorten that up to like here. All right, that's better. Too much. All right, and then, so I knew I wanted to do that. All right, so next up was one, I wanted to thicken up his thighs there. They feel a little small for for his build. So we're going to set up this leg here in this corner. Let's put that down here. Guess I could move this over here. And then that goes that way, and then I'm thinking the foot should go like up So we've got that there. We've thickened the thigh up a lot. I should see about getting larger. Hello, over there on D Live. And then I want to tweak this foot because I feel like this is what's driving me crazy. This foot's like making the pose feel weak. I'm going to go down and then maybe he's got it up. He's like pushing on something. So if we do like a block this way. I feel like that's going to be stronger pressure because I'm trying to show the pressure on the ground. Bring that up. I think that'll feel better. Yeah, so I will take the pencils and I will scan them in, and then I will ink them. So that's the big plan. Here, in fact, that reminds me, I forgot to put this here in the Instagram comments. But I come on for about about an hour and a half or so before lunch. That's kind of the plan today. Um, yeah, so that's the plan. Hello there, over on Twitch. I fixed my Twitch issues, I believe. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. I unhooked something. I don't know if you were in here the other day, but I was having some weird issues with the Twitch stream. It turned out it was my fault, of course. It's working for everybody else, and it's probably my fault. You know. That feels so much better. Getting that leg like that. And then maybe raising the thigh up just a little bit. So, but yeah, that's fun. Hello, Addie. I am Peter. I am a artist, and then my day job is teaching at a university. So that definitely feels a lot better there. Oh, yeah, I gotta like do some adjustments too. Like we go down, maybe this knee. Well, the knee's right there. Make sure that tweaks. Now I'll stick this underneath this with a. Let's just go ahead and just trace up this whole thing. Make that bigger, make that bigger. There we go. I like that better. I am working on a comic book pitch. And so this is one of the covers. I'm trying to do an excess amount of the required amount. So the required amount is problem with tracing paper. Yep. It's great for erasing, but put that back. I'm going to try and find something I can, like a shape I can lock onto here to leave. How we can lock this back in later on. But it's a pitch project for a comic book. I think there's might be a link in the description to get on the waiting list, but yeah, I want to submit it to some publishers first, but I am thinking about doing it as like a Kickstarter or something like that, and then get that out there. Um, So yeah, it's pitch. So the idea is this guy, he's a scavenger, but it's been like 20, 30 years since he went on his last scavenging trip, and it was the last scavenging trip his his colony on this planet has been on to recover supplies from some lost colony ships, and it was a big mess. Like everyone died except for him, including his father. And during the course of that, he made a commitment that he probably should not have made. His father asked him to keep a secret that he shouldn't keep. And he, anyway, it's 30 years later. The colony's in a more desperate situation, and a beacon has gone off for one of the other lost colony ships, and he is being sent out to recover information on the beacon. And no one's been outside of the colony walls in years, really, very much. And so he, one of the few people with experience to go out and do that. And he has to leave behind his wife and let her take care of the responsibilities all by herself. And then go out into this wilderness of bramble. And there's giant structures out there. Oops. Crying out loud. Keep kicking my cable. Thought I got it out of the way, but I guess I didn't entirely. More slack. But so anyway, he's sent out into the wilds of Bramble, or Breach, not Breach, Briar, which is the planet, and there's like these giant structures. When they arrived on the planet 80 years before, they didn't expect to find what they found, and it's kind of there's evidence of a lost civilization on there that's not human. But there's no evidence of their like biological remains, just artifacts and architecture. kind of built structures, or what looked like built structures. And all right, that feels better up there. And anyway, he goes out to figure out what's going on with this beacon, and he discovers some secrets about their initial landing that have been lost or held secret that his father knew about, that he does not. And it changes his relationship to what's going on, along with the colony's relationship to the planet that they're on, that they've colonized. And they're on the kind of, it's the kind of future where, it's more realistic in the sense that, they spent, a couple thousand years traversing the cosmos, and they were awake the whole time. So, there's generations of people that have grew up on the traversal across the galaxy to this planet, and had to take everything with them. But so this is a story set 80 years after that landing. All right, Bosch. So that's the story. So I've worked out the initial. Well, I've got a whole plot treatment written out, and then I've started working on individual issues. The first one has been plotted out, and I'm going to send this back over here. And then I was thinking about throwing one of these bugs over here. Bosh, you going to come lay down? Come here. You don't need anything. Come here. Come on. Come lay down. My dog is a little off schedule. He thinks it's noon. Yeah, so that's my story. So if you're interested in that, get on the list. Hopefully I'd like to get it published into like a monthly series. But we'll see. So I've never done a comic before. I've taught, storytelling and illustration and storyboarding and all of that stuff as a professor, but I've never really done comics. Never taught comics either. So at least there's that, right? This leg felt weak when I put it in there. Now it feels much better doing this. I think that feels much better where I've got it right here. And now let's get this just a little bit more dynamics here. Oops. So, but yeah, that's kind of the big story here, and I've got 3 covers I want to do, and probably 12 to 15 pages. I do love movies. They're great. Everybody loves movies, right? Most recent movie I saw was Begonia, which was terrifying. It was really great. We're going to put another one of these bugs over here. Put a bug over there. Do one over here. And then we're going to put one over here, at least. Now we get a little depth here, get the scale on this guy. What's my favorite movies? That's hard to say. A lot of times I'll rewatch movies that are easy for me to watch. Um, like I've watched the John Wick movies a few times because they're easy to watch, or Indiana Jones, right? Because I'm familiar with the story. A lot of times when I'm watching movies, I'm trying to relax. Um, I really enjoyed the recent. I haven't seen the newest one, but the 28 Years Later that was out in the theaters last year. Uh, really enjoyed that. Um, um, we have that there. What's your favorite movie? Um, I don't want to over detail that guy. We definitely want one up front. All right, that's feeling much better, right? Get some more bugs in there, right? Yeah, there was a lot of nudity in 28 Years Later, but I thought it was a really good movie. It was unusual because it was kind of it was a movie about being a man, which was interesting. They don't tend to make a lot of those as much in that way because it's about this young boy kind of discovering responsibility, right? Kind of going out into the world and figuring out, that in order for, he can't look to his father, to take care of his mother properly. He doesn't understand the full reality of her situation, and obviously, but he's trying to go out there and kind of be the adult in his family, and he encounters different people, different men, who with different kinds of responsibilities that they've adopted or not adopted properly. And I thought that was kind of really interesting as a film, because you don't really see that as often. Okay, what's your first language, Addie? What is your mother tongue, as people like to say sometimes? Yeah, Taxi Driver is great. Of course, the remake of Joker, right, is pretty good too. I never got around to seeing Joker 2, um, but I've heard kind of double-sided reviews of that, where like people either there's like some kind of like art quality to it. I think that people don't either understand or unwilling to engage with. I haven't seen it, but it's on my list of things I'd like to see because I really enjoyed the first one. even if it was like a Taxi Driver remake, among other things. Um, so yeah, that's a great movie. I enjoy the first, especially the first Alien movie. Um, that's a great terror film. I do like the second one, but I think I prefer the first one the most. Um, the other ones kind of fall, you know, they're not great. It's kind of like the Predator films, right? Where it's like, well, the first one is really, really good, especially once it gets into the Predator stuff. But um, Assamese, huh? I have no idea where that's even from. I haven't heard that language before. What country is that located in? India. Oh, okay. I don't know anything about. I mean, beyond knowing where India is, and you have nuclear weapons, and you have unfriendly relationships with Pakistan. That's all I really know about India. Um, but and there's a lot of people live there. Right? I've had a number of Indian students over the years, but I don't have any opinions about India. So some incredible architecture there, right? And I think they found the earliest oil paintings in India that predate the European ones, but it wasn't like a major. It's like they used some seed oils in some paintings, so it didn't become like a important part of the art like it did in Europe. But seems like people who live there like it, to some degree, or more or less. Yeah, they found it's I think it predates the European stuff by a few hundred years. It was like a really rare thing. It wasn't like they weren't doing like Rembrandt paintings. It was the Indian style, um, religious paintings that they do there. But but yeah, they used some kind of medium that was oil based. So because a lot of people, a lot of places they just kept stuck with the water based media. Like Europe had egg tempera for used egg tempera for a long time, or the Greeks they used encaustic paint. And encaustic paint's made of wax. Um, all right, I think that fixes the things I wanted to fix. I think that feels way better. We're going to stick this underneath and erase out this section. And then Put this under a light box. Oh yeah, I guess you could tell me what you got going on over there. Let me get the light box out of here. So that's why I have this not there. Got this A3 sized Alright, let's get some stuff erased off of here. And this whole leg over here. Alright, and this foot a little bit. And that leg. And then we'll stick this underneath and see if we can get this in the right spot. Get some tape out. Yeah, that sounds like a fun little story, right? People, let's see. Let's stick this here. That way it'll make it easier to get the actual thing on here. Another piece of tape. So that's why I gotta turn the lights off so I can see it. Let's see, there you are. Put this little key shape in there to make it easier to put this on here. There. That sounds like a cool little story. Should make something with it. You know, write a novel or draw something. All right. Paper on here to keep me from smearing stuff too much. You don't have the time. Well, yeah. The whole trick is finding that little bit of time every day or most every day where you can do that. I know that you have like a longer work week. I think in India people work 6 days a week usually, right? If not more. I worked with a Indian company that did some shorts for like some short videos for a show called Chuna, I think it was called. It was a Netflix Indian show. Anyway, I did some concept art for them a long time ago through some planets and whatnot um, for an online. Um, let's see if I can bring that real quick. Yeah. Which I thought was, when I was talking, I didn't realize that, so I was like, oh, we'll talk to you next week on Monday, and they're like, oh no, we're meeting tomorrow on Saturday. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you worked on Saturday. Um, um, let's double check something down here. Okay, this is there. Yeah, so you're at a university, or a lot of times they'll call it, a lot of countries they call college what we would call high school in the United States. Um, yeah, but if there's things you want to do, you got to find the time to do them, and it can be really really challenging. To do that for sure. But there's only one way to get the things you want done, right? The artist has to make their work. Yeah, and it sounds really strict. My art students they wear whatever they want, so that can get a little strange sometimes. But they seem to be having mostly a good time, I think. everybody wanted to get off of there for the most part. I think I wanted to like change the vegetation up here just to counter the direction a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I think every school's got its own little quirks, right? There's no, I think beyond like, you have to wear clothes to school. I don't think there's any specific requirements of mine. Is it everybody I wanted to pull over? I don't want him looking out at us, not at that, so I'm sure he's looking out. All the pieces I need to get off of there. So I'm going to erase this extra line maybe just to be on the safe side so I don't put it back in. I think that's everybody. Oh, I forgot somebody. I did forget somebody. This guy over here. It's always helpful to pick a forgiving paper, right? Lasting, how it's supposed to stay. Get this guy coming. So this guy's wrapping back. Yep, have a good night. Yeah, it'll probably get late over that side of the world. Huh? It's almost lunchtime here. Another hour. Actually, should be about perfect. Hopefully, I can finish this off in that time. Oh, don't forget anybody else? Got those two guys. We fixed the legs. Wrap that a little better. I think that's all these guys. So, yeah. We can put this off to the side. Turn this off. And put this back over here. Turn our lights back on. There we go. All right. Tracing is complete. Oh, look, there's a little bit popping in. All right, let's get this all cleaned up and this over there, I guess, out of the way, and fix up this drawing. Let's put that. All right, good, 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 good. All right, that feels better. I'm getting a little spiral of these guys going on here too. So. Oh, hello over there on Twitch. Glad I fixed Twitch up. I was having some weird issues with it, and I figured out last night that it was user error, of course, as usual. Let's see. Get this out of here. And I can see my little. I did a redraw of parts of the body here. Yeah, they're my little cute friends, right? Here's a big one down here. It's a cover. I'm working on a pitch that I want to submit to some publishers soon, as soon as I can get the pitch done. So the first goal here is I'm working on. I thought I would work on what I considered one of the simpler covers. Start that. Hopefully, get the pencils done for that today, done all the way, and then hopefully this afternoon, this evening, work on the second one, and then decide on the final pages I want to do. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's pitch project. So basically, this guy, he's a salvage specialist who also goes out into the wilderness, and humans have uh, settled on this planet, and the planet looks like a giant tangle of plants. So like you see, there's like the structure moving sideways here, another one over here. It's like the whole planet is like this twisted knot of plants, of giant vines, covered in like this heavy bark. And on the planet, there's evidence of a past civilization, but they appear to be all gone. Like there's no biological remains. There's just architecture and artifacts, but there's no. Um, but um, yeah. So anyway, he was part of a salvage expedition 30 years before when he was very young. He was like 19, 20 years old, and it went disastrously. He was the only survivor. His father died. All the other salvage guys died. So they were checking out a lost colony ship, one that crashed separate from the main group. And but anyway, yeah. So he's 30 years later. There's these alien things out there, and so they've kind of avoided leaving their colony, but they're running low on their original supplies, and they they haven't adapted really to living on the planet. So they've got health issues and food issues, calorie issues. Maybe they can grow algae or something like that, but that's about as much as they can do. So they're barely kind of keeping going, and um, but anyway he's being sent out again, but it's kind of a one-way mission. He's being sent out to recover a beacon that has suddenly started firing off, signaling the rest of the colony group. And so he's been sent out to locate this beacon, extract the information off of it, and return with that information to the colony, or at least return the information to the colony if he can't get back himself. So he's has to leave his wife behind in the difficult circumstances that they're in, and head out into this dangerous wilderness in order to hopefully help the colony survive. And so he goes out and he discovers some things about the colony's founding and the nature of the planet they're on and what that means for them in the long term. And that's kind of his story. He's when he was on that original salvage mission with his father, who died as part of that. Um, he his father committed him to keeping a secret. So he saw something on that colony ship that they were doing a salvage operation on that he really wasn't supposed to see. But he's also the only survivor, so he's the only one that knows about it. And he keeping that secret has been a problem for him over the years. Like it's the colony is really big on keeping commitments. That's like one of their main kind of cultural things because it takes a lot to survive like that in space. So they have a whole kind of culture built on keeping commitments. And so he's made this promise to his father that's vital for the colony, but it's also kind of gotten in the way of his other commitments he's made to his wife and his friends and himself. And it part of the story is him kind of dealing with that. That he's made this promise to his father who's no longer around, and it's a problem. So anyway, there's lots of dangerous creatures out there in the wilderness outside the colony, and this is a group of one of them. These little caterpillar-like things. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely going to be engaging a lot of different things. So, we're trying to find a good hook for this character. Originally, it started as a concept project, so I have a background doing visual development for games mostly. Other things too, but mostly for games. And but the and so I was working on a concept project kind of update to I was developing this idea and using it to kind of work on some portfolio stuff for myself. And um, so yeah, so it's a fairly extended. I've kind of got 12 issues plotted out. I'd like to cut it down a little bit, but the idea is to kind of get a few covers done, 10 to 15 pages done, and then use those to send out to different publishers, like Boom and Oni and Image and other, kind of indie publishers, and see what I can make happen with them. I might even do it as a Kickstarter, but if you're interested in that, I think there should be a link that goes to a sign up page. It's just for this project. There's a couple different lists in there, but there's one that's like specifically for this project. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. So, yeah, so let me know. Well, go ahead and sign up, and if I get to like 1,000 or 2,000 people, unless I don't have that many people because I kind of stopped pushing it. I had some family stuff come up with a relative. Well, my father passing away in December, and that kind of threw off my schedule for a couple months. But how dare he, right? But um, but I'm kind of I'm back into the groove of this. Feeling much better. I'm very much more happy with this composition than I was before. Um, yeah, I'm kind of that age where that kind of thing starts happening more often, right? It's like I lost my grandparents a long time ago, um, and he had a long, good life. I mean, he was in his early 70s, so these days that's not too long, but he did a lot, and he's got a bunch of kids and reputation and all the good things you kind of want to leave behind. So, but yeah, so it kind of threw off my December and November quite a bit. Um, but it's also given me a lot to think about for this too. Yeah, money's always a problem, right? Um, but yeah, my thought with this cover is I'm going to do an inked version, but I might do like a painted version too. I've gotten into or back into acrylic painting recently, so I want to twist this up. Let's see, get this up there like that. So I like the twisting on here, it's just kind of flat. One of the things I've kind of changed about how I've looked at my artwork is not to see each step as a finished phase, but rather to see each step as a opportunity to kind of move forward. So, oh look, we've got ourselves a troll over on Kick. They do pop in once in a while, so bye. Yeah, I never leave those guys around. It's like I'm not like, oh no, someone said a mean thing. It's more of like, oh, that's annoying. Well, it's one of the things I've learned as an artist and as a teacher is you have to be willing to kill your darlings, right? You have to be willing to erase things. Like, I erased this whole leg. If you could scroll back to the beginning, I was reworking this whole area here. I erased a bunch of stuff here to add these guys in and add these guys in. And because my goal with any of my pictures I make is to make it as awesome as possible. And so if something is feeling off or flat, I want to deal with that and as quickly as I can. And so sometimes I have to swallow my tongue and pride and say, well, I worked really hard on this. It should be fine. But that's never good enough, right? So to think, oh well, it's okay. It's never quite what you need. You need it to be better. Um, like I want my goal is if this was sitting up on the wall of new comics in the comic book store, that this would stick out. That people would say, "Oh, what's this? What's going on? I got to know." And that's always kind of my goal with anything I'm working on. Is like, is this good enough for that, or is it more than good enough for that? And anything less than that isn't worth really doing for me. So it's something I deal with my students where it's like, yeah, it's good enough to get the A or the B on your project, sure, but is that really your ultimate goal? Like I try to make all my projects and classes passable for anybody, so anyone taking my class, as long as they're doing all the work, can get the C, right? That's kind of the goal that I often have, and well, that's the thick with the problem with well with anything is like you have to put in miles, and the more miles you put in on your work, the more kilometers you go, the more work. Um, yeah, you just have to do it. Like a lot of times when you're if you're young and you haven't done that much work, everything you do is really really precious to you, right? Every mark you make, any kind of minor success is really really valuable to you, and um, so yeah, a lot of students they overvalue what they have, and that's often a mistake where it's like, no, you need to do it again and again and again and again until it's people are calling you to have that you do work for them. That what you can provide them is better than anything they can get anywhere else. So that's always the that's always the goal. And so yeah, it can be terrifying though, right? So like I like oil painting a lot. I've done a lot of oil painting over the years. My master's degree is in painting, emphasizing oil painting at the New York Academy of Art. So I've done copies in the New York uh, Metropolitan Museum of Art of like Rembrandt and Peter de Hoogh, Manet, and more, and learned so much doing those. But and then lots of my own oil paintings, landscapes, and portraits, and all that stuff. But yes, this feels so much better than what I had before, I think. I teach at a university, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. So I teach Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today's one of my days off. Um, I've been here for a couple of years. I've taught a lot of schools: Savannah College of Art and Design, Utah Valley University, Brigham Young University, Ringling College of Art and Design, uh, Pennsylvania College of Art and Design, Kutztown University, and then most recently here. The weather's okay here. I wish it was like a winter was a little bit colder. I mean, we've had like the deep freeze recently. I didn't like that very much, um, so that's my day job is university stuff. Um, Actually, I got some emails I need to answer. I hate email for some reason. I never really liked getting like I like talking to people in person, not over email. So yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with students. We have a I'm doing a sci-fi fantasy class and a business class this semester, and so helping some seniors get launched. Hopefully they'll do what they need to do that. Whew. All right, how are we doing for time? 11:30, huh? Oh, perfect. We'll do some touch-ups for the next half hour or so, and then I'll take us to lunch. So, um, gotta put this. I guess gotta finish off his. Um, yeah, so it's good. I also teach online. I have a website, myartprofessor.com, that you can see there in the bottom corner. It's a subscription site. Mostly my old perspective stuff I taught at Ringling. I do want to flesh it out a lot more. I need to get this project going before I did that. And so this is like where all of my brain energy is going into. Um, yeah, so yeah, do check it out. It's really kind of helping people be fluent in perspective. It's a challenging subject, right? So understanding how it really works. So there's a lot of there is some technical perspective in there, but what I found is people tend to think there's a lot of math in technical perspective, but there's really not. It's like a handful of numbers you have to memorize, like 90 and 60, or 45. But like it's mostly perspective. The hard part is just keeping track of your vanishing point, especially if you're doing anything complex. But it makes a big difference, and you'll see a lot of like comic book artists like working fluently in perspective, or concept artists and things like that, where they just kind of they're just working with it. Like I've watched Daniel Warren Johnson like nicely subdivide spaces or lay out a perspective grid, and his stuff looks really sketchy, but he's still doing perspective um, in a very fluid way. And so becoming fluent in it is like a big deal if you're interested in art. Um, but it does take time. Um, but if you'll dedicate like a few months to it, you can become really quite good at it, and makes it easier even just to sketch in it. But it does freak people out. I do get that. In fact, I'm talking to a professor tomorrow who's having a hard time with the class where they're doing some of the perspective stuff, and the thing is, I'm really it's really easy for me to teach because I've been teaching it for a long time now. But but it is definitely hard for other people who haven't taught it much less the students who haven't been taught it yet. Um, it can be a real challenge. So yeah, well, yeah, you have to kind of get used to it. I fell into teaching by accident, case of mistaken identity, early on, which I didn't realize was the case until years later. But you get used to it after a certain point. It's like you have to learn to speak in front of a class and demonstrate what you're doing, and explain why you're doing what you're doing, and help other people do that too. And it definitely has a lot of dimensions. This foot's way more dynamic. I think that was a good idea to rework that. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a challenge. But yeah, the courses I have there, what the especially the kind of intro or the perspective stuff I have was developed originally for my Ringling students during COVID, so they could basically follow along with that, and then we would meet to talk about their progress during the week, and so that way, like they didn't have to show up online to watch me do perspective for them. I appreciate that. A little bit, yeah. I did some concept stuff for some shorts they were going to do. It eventually got canceled, but it involved a bunch of different characters. I was working with a guy named Ryan Woodward who was working at Riot at the time, and they yeah, used me to. I did like storyboards and color comps and concept art and a bunch of stuff for them for several months, like 6 months or something like that. It was a lot of fun. I've never actually played any of their games though, so I have this weird thing where I've never actually played any of the games I've worked on. Um, yeah, so I wasn't full time there, but I was doing contract work while I was leaving one university and coming back to the United States. So, but so sadly, yeah, it got canceled, so I can't really show the work. But that was back in like 2016, I guess it was. Um, yeah, it happens a lot. Like you just never find out about them, right? So they put some resources and money and time into projects to see how they might work out, especially a big company like Riot that's got a lot of money. And um, yeah, but this feels so much better than where I started off this morning. So like the pose felt really kind of limp, especially in this leg. So yeah, but a lot of companies, yeah, they'll start big projects or even medium-sized ones, and you never find out about it, right? Or you never get seen, or you might hear a rumor about it years later. I think it's over there on YouTube. Saboteur. Working here until lunch, and then I'll take a break, and then hopefully they'll consider this one done, and I can move on to other things. I think this guy's maybe too distracting back here. I got multiple things going on back here. Maybe put this into shadow. Um, yeah, so yeah, that does happen quite often. That's also kind of the problems working for other people is you don't have control over what happens to your work and the things that you do, and that can impact your ultimate, you know, your participation is always limited. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people like doing that, but um, so, but yeah, so it's always best to like have your own thing ultimately, if you like creating stuff. I mean, some people do really enjoy, working with other companies and hmm. Ooh, how are we doing time? 15 minutes? All right, let's go back to our character. Did our guy some tears in here. Got to make our hero suffer, right? He's got kind of a short mohawk. So that's what's going on under the hood. It's kind of the way his group kind of that was part of like their uniform was. So it'll be more. I have another cover. I'm going to probably do this start this afternoon. Um, that will show that he's kind of leaping forward, so the hood's coming off. So yeah, so he's got kind of a certain kind of look. Hopefully, it doesn't look too much like me. I need to make sure I want to make his face a little longer. He's clearly supposed to be like in his 50s or something like that, so a little older than me. Yeah, so he's supposed to be like so I mean he's been living with this secret for a very long time, and Good afternoon. So yeah, that's kind of the situation. So yeah, I wanted to be like someone he's seen some stuff, and that's part of his challenge is like going out there to, you know, he's been asked to kind of go back to his youth, right, to a certain degree, the thing that he did as a young person, where he's been, hasn't really kept up with that in a long time. Obviously, he's kind of like got this moment where he's got to stand up and do this thing that's high risk. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, a few more minutes, and then we can leave this out. See if I'm happy with it. Maybe look at it in a mirror for a bit. See if there's anything I want to change. Let's see. All right, this is feeling definitely more fun and interesting. Let's see. I guess it's probably time for lunch. Which for my dog is a very important day, kind of day, because he gets a SNACK during LUNCH. And so he is over there wondering, has my human forgotten me and left me behind to starve to death because I don't have my SNACK for lunch? And all right, I'm gonna pause it there, get some calories in my stomach, and maybe be back this afternoon. We'll see. So, what's the breed? He is well mixed. He is well blended, as they say. All right, Bosch. Well, you were very excited all of a sudden. He's a little guy, 35 pounds. So that's what, like 10, 10 kilos, 12 kilos, something like that. He's a little guy. So, anyway, thanks to everybody that came in. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you all later.